Hi, everybody. I'm going live again this week as I do. There we go. There we go. There we go. Live. I'm going live as I do when I am creating a podcast episode and I don't have a guest. And today I don't have a guest, so the guest is me and you if you are watching live or later. Last week when I did this, I had a swishy coat on like this, and every time I moved, it made that kind of noise, and oh my goodness, it was distracting on the recording. I did figure out how to take it off of the podcast, but on the video I think it's still there. So I'm going to do really my best this time not to move when I'm talking, so I don't have this swishy. Well, actually I could probably just take it off. Maybe just let me do that. I'll just take it off so it doesn't swish. But today I want to talk about some of my new awarenesses. And I'd love it if you would put comments in if you happen to have something that you'd like to share or a question. And if I don't notice, nothing personal, I just want to make sure that I get some of these points out, or these ways of thinking about things out. So I put some information in the in the title here over on the side. So I want to talk today about noticing what you notice when you are on a path of awareness, self-awareness, and how that impacts us, and whether or not we're arguing for our limitations. I don't know. Let's see what happens in the conversation. Okay, so I'll do the countdown and then we'll go. 3, 2, 1. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Circle Up and Get Real, where we talk about things that matter with people who matter. And today I don't have a guest, so I'm just pondering some of the thoughts that I've been having as I'm in this space of wondering and pondering. And I'm aware of new things that I probably didn't even notice before I started on this journey to self-awareness. That's been a kind of a long journey for me. I look back on my life and it feels to me like where the fence was drawn, like a before and after, was my experience with the Landmark Forum back in 2003. So that's been 21 years ago. And I've been on this path of, I'll call it personal accountability, noticing things differently. In the moment, I don't always see the things that might trip me up, but always in looking back, I notice. And so for me, this last 21 years has been a journey into self-awareness. And I'm curious if anybody who's listening to this live or later has an experience like that, where you now see things differently because something clicked, or you read a book or met a person, or something happened that you can target as kind of a before and after. Before this, I didn't know what I didn't know. Now I do. So things are occurring differently for me. The interesting part about that is, Wayne Dyer would say, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I suppose we could go to quantum physics and we could say, they proved that when they were talking about waves and particles, and whatever was observed was what was seen through a microscope. So scientifically, I think that's true. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. It, it's hard for me then to prove that. I think about the old saying, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it, does it really make a sound? That's a question that throws me every time. Anyway, the point is, there's a lot of things that we can ponder that we might not really have answers for, or the answer, or the right answer. Yet, for so many of us, we've been programmed to look for that right answer. And it can't possibly be me. I can't have the answer inside of me, so I need to look outside myself for somebody who looks like he or she is successful in the way that I want to be successful, so I can just follow what they've done. That's really not even a fair thing to talk about, because they are on their own journey with their own experiences and their own insights and their own awarenesses. And if I'm simply following them, I'm discounting my own opportunity to experience my life myself. So I get the sentiment. It doesn't have to be like hard that you're starting from scratch. You can follow somebody else. I get that. But when it really comes down to my living of the life I'm here to live, no one else can tell me how to do that. And no one else will ever be able to understand exactly how my awarenesses are working. That's the challenge with trying to connect with people using words, because words are so clunky. We don't If we don't have a big vocabulary and we don't know a lot of the meanings of the things we want to say, it's hard to get it out there. It's hard to connect with someone else with those words. Yet that's the best I know right now, is figuring out the words to use to explain something I'm understanding. So today I want to talk about how often I have in the past argued for my limitations because I wanted to be right. There was a time in my journey of awareness where I felt like I was on an island by myself. And so I would argue for my limitations so that I could connect with someone else. Let's find a common enemy, and then let's talk about the common enemy, because at least we have something in common. And the lower vibrational energy, or the lower awareness, the lowest common denominator, was finding something we didn't like and that we could complain about. Sometimes we call that Minnesota nice, where we don't talk about or talk to the people who we have problems with. We talk about them because we hate conflict. And I'm guessing this isn't only Minnesota, North Dakota. I'm guessing this is a lot of the world, except the East Coast. From what I understand, people on the East Coast don't have as much problem addressing conflict. But anyway, that arguing for your limitations looks kind of like a yeah, but in your head. If you hear something and you go, well, yeah, that's fine for you, but you don't know about me. And sometimes it ends up that we are fighting to be right about something we don't want. So we will point things out to people so that we can get acknowledged for something that we don't want. It's really backwards when you think about it like that. We'll find something we don't like or something that we see that's incorrect, and then we'll call attention to it so we can be the one to tell you that I knew it was wrong. I've done this. I've done this with typos. I'm so bad at this. I will see a typo on a building or a letter that's burned out of a sign, and I'll have to read it out loud for some reason, just so whoever's in the car with me can know that I saw it. It's so bizarre. And the more I work on self-awareness, the less rewarding is the only word I can think of, but rewarding that is to be able to point out things that are wrong. Big deal. I mean, that's a really low vibrational energy to be able to connect about things that are wrong or bad, things we don't like, things we don't want, so that we can be the one to say, here, I saw this. And I just find that really interesting as I'm observing and I'm doing my own thing, working on my own awareness, recognizing that I still have a lot to learn. I still have a lot to master in my own awareness. And one of the things that I'm recognizing for myself is that the more work I do in this area of self-awareness, the more I grow in compassion, and the less I want to talk about things that are wrong or bad. I mean, there are some things that definitely need to be addressed, because there are some things that seriously are damaging to humanity. And I believe that if we don't at least call some attention to some of those things, it occurs that we are compliant. We are thinking it's okay. I mean, Martin Luther King said the only thing, something like, the worst thing we can do is to say nothing when we notice something along those lines. And if good people doing the best they can for the world don't speak up about things that need attention called to them, I'll put it that way, need attention called to them, then really we're not doing our part to raise the consciousness. I'm really taken with this book. I keep talking about it on this podcast, but I'm going to put it out there right now too that I have reached out to one of the authors to be on my podcast, on this podcast. Have not heard yet, and I'm not giving up. The book is The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership, and it's such a simple way to break down this conversation by just drawing a horizontal line across a piece of paper and looking at above the line and below the line. And above the line is conscious, where you are open, curious, and committed to learning. And below the line is unconscious, closed, defensive, and committed to being right. They talk in the book about 4 ways of leading, and I really like their distinction individually as people who are working on our own self-awareness. The 4 ways of leading they talk about are as me, where life is me. This is oneness. This would be a really, I'm not here in any way, shape, or form, but the posture of oneness is at one with all. The experience is peace and spaciousness. The beliefs are there is just oneness. There are no problems and no one to solve them. The key question is that there are no more questions. There's just knowingness. And the benefits of this way of leading is experience oneness and non-dualism, unlimited freedom and peace. I have this picture of monks and yogis and gurus sitting on a mountain and just being and meditating. That's fantastic. I have not experienced that myself. That is one of the ways of leading. They also talk about to me way of leading. Life happens to me. The posture in this way of leading is victim. The experience is blaming and complaining. The beliefs are there is a problem, someone is at fault, and someone should fix this. The key question here is why me, and whose fault is this? The benefits of this way of leading are you can experience separateness, you have a defined identity, entertaining drama, supports empathy, adrenaline high. So that's the to me, life happens to me victim. The third of 4, these are in no particular order, by the way, but the third is through me. I cooperate with life happening. The posture is co-creator. Experience allowing, flow, wonder, and awe. The beliefs here are I am the source of all meaning. I experience things as perfect, whole, and complete. Life handles all apparent problems. In quotes. The key question is what wants to happen through me? And the benefits are non-attachment, unlimited possibility, plenty of everything. I'd like to believe I've touched that every now and then. Through me, I cooperate with life happening. And then the 4th one, again in no particular order, is by me. I make life happen. The posture is creator. Experience appreciation. Beliefs, problems are here for me to learn from. I create the problem so I can solve it. The key question, what can I learn? What do I want to create? And the benefits are personal empowerment. You define your wants and desires. So they say that this is responsibility. When you're in that space, by me, I make life happen, you are in responsibility. When you are operating through me, I cooperate with life happening, that's surrender. When you are at oneness as me, that's just, there is nothing else, it's just oneness. And then the to me is victim. So becoming aware of where we are in any given conversation or any given awareness, becoming aware of your awareness, I guess is what that's saying, but noticing that and recognizing that and then pondering that, I believe, is the best thing we humans can do to come to a place where we can appreciate other people, where we can recognize that contrast gives us choice. Awareness just has a lot of benefits. And I'm just wondering, where are we seeing ourselves in this? This was spurred today for me because, as you know, if you listen to this, I'm a big basketball fan, and I've been watching all of the cool things that have been happening with women's basketball. I am a former women's basketball player, so I have a special interest in this. And they're talking about how Caitlin Clark is the top scorer in all of basketball, men or women. And people are saying, but she's not really. There were two other people before her who scored more points than she did. And that's true in the world of AIAW or before the NCAA was an entity. And so I don't look at that myself as saying she's trying, or we, America, anybody, is trying to say that she's better than the people who came before her who didn't have a 3-point line. And there's all these, like, we're trying to fight to be right. And it happens that these two women they were talking about in this post are African American. And so they're saying that whoever is coming up with the idea that Caitlin Clark is the best basketball player or the greatest scorer are trying to whitewash history. And I wonder, I ponder, I wonder and then I ponder, is that true? Is that true? It could be true. I don't know that it's not true. And I wonder how often we look for ways to be right about things instead of to shine a flashlight on things and say, wow, I wonder about this. This is curious to me. There are two women who came before Caitlin Clark did, who played basketball in the 70s and 80s, which is when I played basketball, and they scored more points than she did. Why are they not getting the attention? Valid point, valid point. And I don't know that we said in all of history, we said NCAA. I don't know this. I'm not trying to justify what's been happening. I'm just trying to look at possibilities. If we are looking for ways to argue for our own limitations so that we can be right, we're demonstrating what this book calls unconscious leadership, or unconscious, I guess unconscious awareness would be kind of an oxymoron. Unconsciousness. We just don't know. And when we're in that space of fighting for our limitations, which sometimes occur as trying to be right about things instead of being open to learning about things, we are demonstrating, we are showing how we are. And I guess all I am saying is it's so much easier, in my experience, to give up the need to be right about things. I can delete the need to be right, even when I'm accurate. Because we're in this space right now in the world of, it's hard to find facts. It's really hard to find facts. I saw something about just this morning passing through a feed where Katy Perry got divorced over Twitter or a tweet or something. And I thought, what, really? So I went and looked. All I did is I hit a search bar, and back in a previous marriage, and I don't know what her situation is with her current husband, but in a previous marriage, she did in 2012 or something. The spin on media right now is to get us to buy, to go, yes, oh, did you hear this is true? And then assume that whatever we heard is true now, without all the details. So I am doing my best to look for alternate sources whenever I see something that sounds sensational. I don't know that that changes the world. I don't know. And I don't feel like it's my job to tell all these people who are, throwing opinions around like facts that they need to do something different. I don't feel that. I used to, because I wanted to be right. I was unconscious. I was trying desperately to find a way to be right so that somebody would validate me. I don't know. These days, after, what did I say it was, 21 years of pretty constant work on myself and becoming more aware of things and learning more about me, I don't feel that need anymore. I don't. Like I said earlier, there's a time and place, I suppose, to correct someone, but it's not until you've connected with them, in my opinion. If you want to connect or correct somebody, I would say it would be wise to connect first. Because going around, throwing around your high-horsedness, is that even a word? Your high-horsedness doesn't really have a good opportunity to connect. But maybe that's not some people's goal, to connect with people. It's mine. It's mine. My goal is to connect. My goal is to find common ground. It's just the way I'm wired. It's not right or wrong, good or bad. It's just who I am. So when I find opportunities to connect with people and then connect people with each other or connect people with a resource or an idea, I love that. That brings me joy. I know that about myself. I'm not saying that's right or wrong or everybody should be like that. Not at all. I'm just stating what I've learned about me. And what I am learning about me has less to do with adding to what I am and more to do with subtracting all the things that I've put in the way of my authenticity, my core, my truth, my beingness. I've put so many layers of other stuff on top of that for so long that the best thing I've done in the last few years is start peeling away those layers. Is that true? Was that for me? Is that what I need? Do I still need this going forward? I can say yes or no. And the beauty of that is I always have a choice. I can agree or not. I can choose. I am not here to make sure that everybody in the world thinks the way I do. Oh my gosh, how boring would that be? I love conversations that challenge me, that cause me to think differently. And yes, sometimes I do fall below the line and I get defensive when people say things that I know are probably true and I don't want to hear them. But they stay with me and I ponder them because that's what I'm up to these days. Wonder and ponder. I wonder about that. Let me ponder that. And if that feels true and right to me, I can choose it. If it doesn't feel true and right to me, I can reject it. Not because it's wrong or bad, but because it doesn't resonate with me. I'm doing my best to get rid of some of the judgment I've had. And the reason I had a lot of judgment early in my awareness journey is because I didn't know who I was. I was judging a lot of people who, man, probably they were saying things that were hitting me in a place that I didn't want to admit yet. And so I judged them. And I did that far too long in my life. It took a lot of pain. It was pain. It's painful to get rejected and to get told that maybe you need to leave this organization or this opportunity or this relationship. That's never easy. But one of the things that I've recognized about myself is I'm very loyal to a fault. I'm loyal beyond the expiration date of the relationship in some ways. And so I don't break up with people, they break up with me. And that's not a bad thing. Jodee, thank you for your comment here. Self-awareness leads to conscious choosing. That can be very scary for people, whereas the identity often does support and allow new choice. Jodee says, instead, people oscillate between current reality and desired reality, which leads to feeling broken and self-blame. Oh, this is so good. Having a life you love requires integration of all levels of self. Most people live in conscious self and unconscious self. So true. So true. Yes. And unless we recognize that and accept that, there are times I'm in my unconscious self. I suppose when you're conscious of that, it kind of adds another spin to that. I'm conscious of the times I'm being unconscious. Or maybe I'm conscious later of the places I've been unconscious, or I've been asleep, or I've ignored things, or I've rejected things. All of that is a journey, you're right, Jodee, and it can be scary. It can. Looking in the mirror can be really scary. I talked about that last week on my podcast. So I'm not saying this is a journey of puppies and rainbows and unicorns all the time, although I would choose this 100 times over burying my head in the sand and trying desperately not to see my true self. But that's just me. So what I am doing and what I am continuing to do is to find my people, find those people who are interested in the conversations that I'm interested in, who want to delve into themselves, who want to become more aware. And on Mondays, we have what we call the Enlightened Leadership Lab. And the Enlightened Leadership Lab is 90 minutes every Monday where we have these kinds of conversations with others who are in our circle. And I'd love to invite you to check us out if that's something that is of interest to you. enlightenedleadershiplab.com. We're looking to grow that, and we're growing with the people who want what we are being, not what we're trying to be. There's a distinction. So if that's of interest to you, please check it out. Let me know. I would love to give you a link so that you could visit. And with that, just continue to wonder, continue to ponder, continue to go into your life with your eyes wide open, and just notice what you notice. And as always, get real. We'll talk again. Thanks, everybody.